My name is Nancy. I'm currently 27 years old, and I've managed to secure a good job, my own apartment, and sufficient funds for a comfortable lifestyle. However, reaching this point was a journey full of unexpected twists and turns. Everything began when I was 15 when my mom passed away. Although Dad tried to maintain stability, it was evident he was struggling. Then, hardly a year later, he surprised me with news. "Nancy, I'd like you to meet Sarah," he announced one evening as he stood in our kitchen alongside a woman who hardly seemed older than my cousin from college. "We're getting married." Sarah was at least 15 years younger than Dad and had a daughter named Kayla, who was just 5 when they entered our lives. From the outset, Sarah treated me as though I was an uninvited guest in my own home. She'd walk past me in the hallway without uttering a word or start whispering to Dad whenever I entered a room. But Kayla was different. This lively 5-year-old would burst into my room at all hours, asking, "Nancy, can we watch SpongeBob?" as she settled on my bed with her stuffed penguin. I cherished those instances, as having a little sister was something I had always yearned for. Initially, it felt as if something positive could emerge from this situation. Unfortunately, it didn't last. Gradually, things shifted. Kayla stopped visiting my room after school and made excuses whenever I suggested watching TV together. One day, I overheard Sarah talking to Kayla in the kitchen. "Honey, you don't need to spend so much time with Nancy," she was saying in her ever-so-sweet voice. "She's not really your sister, you know. She's just your father's other daughter." That's when everything made sense, the way Sarah acted and Kayla's sudden distance. It was all part of Sarah's plan. She didn't want Kayla to view me as a sister, and she was succeeding. Thereafter, I gave up trying. What was the point? Each time Kayla looked through me during dinner or turned away in the hallway, the pain grew. So I immersed myself in my schoolwork instead. Getting accepted into college with a full scholarship felt like liberation. My career took off after graduation, with new opportunities, larger projects, and increased pay each year. I finally lived my dream life, my own home, nice clothing, luxurious restaurants, and weekend trips. No more penny pinching or wearing hand-me-downs. Then a phone call changed everything. Hearing my father's hesitant voice on the line was unexpected. "How are you, sweetheart?" he asked, catching me off guard. We barely communicated since I left for college, aside from a few holiday cards or birthday messages. I always suspected Sarah had influenced the silence, as she often found reasons to shorten Dad's calls. After a pause, he continued, "I've been thinking, maybe it's time we start fresh and leave the past behind. Come over for dinner. Sarah would love to see you too." Knowing something was off, I went the following Sunday out of curiosity. To my surprise, Sarah greeted me at the door with an eager smile and embraced me. "Nancy, we've missed you so much," she exclaimed, leaving me feeling uneasy as I recalled how she once neglected to inform me about a change in the schedule, making me sit alone at an empty table. Yet these visits turned into a weekly routine. Every Sunday, our family gathered in the living room for awkward small talk about the weather and local happenings. About a month later, the real reason behind their sudden desire for reconciliation came to light during one visit. "The thing is, Nancy," Dad said, focusing on his coffee cup, "we're facing financial issues." Sarah chimed in, her voice syrupy sweet. "The house needs so many repairs, and bills are stacking up. We hate to ask, but..." Initially, it was covering utility bills, then groceries, and finally home repairs, like a new water heater, roof fixes, and furnace replacement. Each time, the expenses increased, but I kept helping. After all, it was for family, right? Throughout these changes, Kayla, now a teenager, remained the steady presence in this turbulent sea of family dynamics. While Dad and Sarah seemed ever-changing. During my visits, she remained unchanged, cold and distant. Sarah would slouch in the corner of the living room, her face buried in her phone, only glancing up to give a half-hearted acknowledgement when she was forced to notice me. Sometimes, I'd catch her watching me with a strange expression, not quite hatred, but something close. I used to tell myself that maybe it was just the age difference. After all, what 17-year-old wants to hang out with their 27-year-old stepsister? Perhaps if we were closer in age, things might have been different. But deep down, I knew it wasn't true. The distance caused by the seeds Sarah had planted years ago had grown into a thick, thorny barrier between us. No amount of money or obligatory Sunday dinners would ever change that. The call came on a Tuesday evening while I was sorting through my mail. Sarah's name appeared on my screen, which usually meant another bill needed settling. I prepared myself before answering. "Nancy, we're planning something special," Sarah announced, her voice brimming with excitement. "Kayla's turning 18 next month, and we want it to be perfect, but we're a bit short on funds." Of course, they were. I rubbed my temples, suppressing a sigh. "What kind of party do you have in mind?" "Nothing too extravagant," Sarah assured me swiftly. "Just a nice backyard celebration with good food and pretty decorations." Despite my initial skepticism, I found myself nodding. Perhaps this could be the opportunity to bridge the gap with Kayla. After all, turning 18 was a milestone. Recalling my own 18th birthday at a local pizza place, I asked, "What do you need help with specifically?" Already I was reaching for my laptop. Sarah hesitated. "The biggest expense is food and drinks. You know how teenagers eat." I pulled up the website of a local catering company I'd used for work events. "I can handle the catering," I offered. "They do great work. Appetizers, main courses, drinks, and their cakes are amazing." I spent the next hour discussing menu options, imagining Kayla's reaction. Would this finally be the act that dissolved the ice between us? Even found myself getting excited about planning the party. Then, a few days later, Dad called again. "Nancy, honey, there's something else we need to discuss," he said, his tone serious. "It's about her future." Sensing this wouldn't be a quick chat, I settled in my favorite chair. "What about it?" "Well," he paused, "she'll graduate high school soon, and she wants to go to college." I knew where this was going before he even finished. Surprisingly, I didn't feel the usual irritation when they asked for financial help. Instead, I actually considered it. "How much is the tuition?" Dad mentioned the state university, listing figures, but my mind was already elsewhere. That night, after Dad's call, I sipped wine on my balcony, contemplating. The state university was decent, and its tuition was affordable. Maybe, just maybe, this generous gesture could make Kayla see me as family. My decision was made. I'd announce my intent at her party, revealing my gift would be covering her college costs. I spent the next few days finalizing catering arrangements, choosing a perfect cake design, and scripting my announcement. 2 days before the celebration, I was reviewing the final catering order when my phone rang. Kayla's name appeared, and my heart leapt. She'd never called me before. "Hey, Kayla, I was just finishing up some party plans." "About that," she interrupted, her voice cool and businesslike. "I'm going through the guest list now. Mom and Dad invited too many people, so I'm cutting some names. Yours included." Her words felt like a slap. I pulled the phone away, staring in disbelief. "What, Kayla? I don't understand." "I'm your sister." She laughed, the sound like ice breaking. "No, you're not. That's kind of the point. This party is for blood relatives and close friends. You're neither. I never loved you like that. You were just there, some random." As I gripped the corner of the counter, my knuckles turning white, the room seemed to tilt slightly. The girl living in our house, Kayla, had just dropped a bombshell on me over the phone. "If you've already decided on a gift or anything, just have it sent by a courier or something," she had remarked, her voice laced with a mocking grin. The line went silent before I could reply. I sat motionless, staring into a void, my phone gripped tightly in a trembling hand. Then, unexpectedly, I dialed my father in tears, an action I hadn't taken in years. "Dad," my voice faltered, "did you know about this? Were you aware that Kayla had excluded me from her celebration?" "Oh, honey," he sighed, as if I were a child whining about a scraped knee. "Don't take it too much to heart. You know teenagers are unpredictable. You're older and wiser than she is, Nancy. Family is supposed to support each other." "Family," I retorted, raising my voice. "Kayla just made it abundantly clear that I'm not family." Suddenly, Sarah's voice interjected, sharp and unforgiving. "Listen here, Nancy. You're affluent, successful. It's your responsibility to help us. Family sticks together, regardless of whether Kayla wants you at her party or not. Just as I was about to respond, the call ended abruptly. Sarah had hung up on me. Feeling foolish, I sat in my kitchen surrounded by party plans and catering menus. For years, I'd been writing checks, attempting to secure my place in their hearts, and now I realized what they really thought of me. Just a walking ATM, a convenient donor not worthy of an invite to the party I was financing. The laptop screen faded to black, yet I continued staring, my reflection staring back at me. Behind me was the corkboard where I had proudly pinned the acceptance letter from State University, the one I intended to show Kayla while announcing my offer to pay for her education. I picked up my phone, scrolling to the catering company's number, hesitating. Logic told me canceling now would squander money as they'd already started preparations, but another idea formed, making me smile for the first time in seemingly ages. "Hello, this is Nancy Mitchell," I began when the call connected. "I'm calling about the party order for this Saturday. I need to change the delivery address, and I want to donate the entire order to the Hope Harbor shelter downtown." There was a moment of silence on the other end. "The homeless shelter?" "Yes," I affirmed, pulling up their address on my phone. "Deliver everything as planned, just to the new address. Appetizers, main courses, desserts, and especially that 3-tier cake. Don't alter anything." After the call ended, I felt oddly lighter, the anxiety knot in my chest untangling, replaced by a certain calmness. I didn't even feel remorseful. Wasn't this exactly what Kayla desired? No ties to her annoying older sister at her precious bash. I slept more soundly that night than I had in weeks. The morning of Kayla's birthday was bright and crisp, and I was savoring my second cup of coffee when my phone rang with Sarah's familiar tone. "Where's the catering?" she screeched without prelude. "They were supposed to arrive an hour ago. If this is some kind of joke." "Oh, the catering?" My voice maintained a casual, light tone. "Don't hold your breath. Everything's been delivered to Hope Harbor Shelter. I'm sure they're relishing it now." The deafening silence on the other side of the line was telling. "You what?" Sarah's voice lowered to a dangerous whisper. "Since I'm not family enough to be at the party," I responded, stirring my coffee. I decided not to intrude with my gift either. Kayla made it very clear she only wants close kin and friends involved, and as her father so wisely noted, I should respect her wishes. "You spiteful little," Sarah's voice escalated to a screech. "You've ruined everything. The guests will be here in 2 hours. In the background, I could hear Kayla's voice climbing in panic. "Mom, what's happening? Where's the food? Maybe you can order pizza," I suggested cheerfully. "Isn't that what non-family members would do?" Kayla's sobs grew louder from the other end, interspersed with what sounded like stomping and doors slamming. The mental picture of her tantrum widened my grin. "You've ruined her birthday," Sarah wailed. "Her special day." "No, Sarah," I replied calmly. "Kayla ruined it herself when she decided to teach her cash cow a lesson. I merely assisted her in learning one instead." I hung up while Sarah was still spluttering, set my phone to Do Not Disturb, and took another sip of my coffee. It tasted better than usual, somehow sweeter. Meanwhile, across town, 200 people at Hope Harbor were enjoying quite a feast. The Hope Harbor shelter was on the verge of enjoying the most exquisite meal they'd had in years, complete with a stunning 3-tier birthday cake. Meanwhile, my dear stepsister was coming to realize that actions have repercussions. A few days post-party, whispers began to circulate. My friend Lisa, who had a cousin attending school with Kayla, was the first to break the news. "Oh my God, Nancy, it was an absolute disaster," she related, suppressing a chuckle. "You won't guess what went down." With the catering failing to arrive, Sarah dashed to the supermarket in distress, snatching up sandwich supplies and hastily putting them together in the kitchen. Still, it wasn't sufficient. Half the attendees went without food. I sipped my wine, amused at the mental image of Sarah's impeccably manicured fingers scrambling to make sandwiches. "And the cake?" I inquired. Lisa snorted with amusement. "Even better," she replied. "She sent your dad to Danny's diner to fetch whatever desserts remained. He returned with a box of stale donuts and some unhappy-looking apple pies." Attendees were standing in the backyard, clutching paper plates with half a sandwich and a stale donut, bewildered. And Kayla had a meltdown, a complete nuclear one, Lisa added. She went ballistic, whirling her presents into the yard. Someone was hit on the shoulder with a Bath and Body Works gift set. Your stepmother's expression as lotions went flying was priceless. Lisa dissolved into laughter. I was still amused by the story when Dad reached out a few hours later. His voice carried that artificially calm tone that indicated a strenuous effort to sound reasonable. Nancy, honey, we need to discuss what happened, he began. What you did really hurt your sister, but I understand and I forgive you. I nearly burst out laughing. You forgive me? I questioned, incredulous. Yes, he stated, sounding generous. It's all in the past now, but there's a more pressing issue. Kayla's college tuition. And there it was, the true motive behind the call. Actually, Dad, there's nothing to discuss, I interjected. I won't be financing Kayla's education. Shocked silence followed my statement before he erupted with anger.
What do you mean you won't pay? You promised.
You can't do this to your sister. I laughed at the irony. Sister? The same one who outright declared I'm not family, the one who disinvited me from the party for not being a real relative. That was different, he insisted. She was emotional. Family sticks together. Nancy, you know this. Exactly, Dad. I replied calmly. Kayla made it unmistakable that I am not family. I'm just a constant source of cash for you whenever you need it. Well, surprise. The bank is closed. No more checks, no more bills, no more repairs, and indeed no more college tuition. You and Sarah will need to figure out how to handle Kayla's education yourselves. Goodbye, Dad. The lavish frame intended for Kayla's college fund announcement still sat on my desk. I picked it up, viewed it a final time, then discarded it into the trash. The campaign commenced roughly 3 days following my call with Dad. Initially, the phone calls, Aunt Rachel, then Uncle Mike, subsequently distant cousins I hadn't communicated with in years. My phone endlessly buzzed with messages and voicemails, all reiterating the unified plea. Nancy, you can't abandon your sister. Families should unite. Consider Kayla's future. Evidently, Dad and Sarah were fervently spreading their perspective to any willing listener. Poor Kayla was deprived of higher education by her heartless stepsister, who withheld her wealth. Omitted were the details of my party exclusion or my family dismissal. I began rejecting calls from unfamiliar numbers. When relatives reached me, any mention of Kayla or college prompted an immediate hang-up. Eventually, I powered down my phone entirely. Yet, persistence ensued. One morning, my apartment door revealed Sarah and Kayla, Sarah's finger poised on the doorbell, prepared to press it nonstop until I responded. I simply closed the door in their faces. They returned the following days, sometimes together, sometimes separately. I began using my building's rear entrance and instructed the doorman to deny them entry. Then a week after the drama unfolded, a text from Kayla appeared on my phone. Nancy, we need to talk. I know I overreacted about the party. It was foolish to take it so seriously. I gazed at the message for ages, releasing a brief chuckle. Now it was suddenly a joke, now that Kayla recognized there were repercussions for her actions. Everything had become a trivial misunderstanding. The guest list mishap was supposedly all in jest, and we should just forget it and move forward. You're absolutely right, I messaged back. It was indeed a joke. I found it particularly amusing, especially the part where I donated all the food to the homeless shelter. Wasn't that quite funny? I truly valued her sense of humor, so I decided to mirror it with mine. She took several minutes before replying, and when she did, her response contained merely one word: please. That's when it dawned on me. Dad and Sarah hadn't informed her. They hadn't disclosed that I had funded the catering or that I was planning to finance her college education. I leaned back in my chair, pondering how different things could have been if Kayla knew. She probably would have been as sweet as pie, acting the role of the devoted sister flawlessly. There would have been embraces, thank yous, and promises of everlasting gratitude. The party would have gone impeccably. I'd have made my major announcement about college, and everything would have seemed fantastic on the surface. But it would have all been a facade, just another scene in the perpetual performance of, let's pretend we're a happy family as long as Nancy keeps the checks coming. Oddly, I owed Kayla a thank you. Her moment of genuine cruelty had torn down the facade I had been desperately trying to uphold for years. She had revealed precisely what I represented to them. Not family, not even a friend, merely a convenient financial source. I blocked her number, without sending another reply. Nowadays, my bank account is healthier, and my stress levels are much lower. No more unexpected calls about broken appliances or overdue bills. No more guilty manipulation about familial duties. No more pretending. 6 months following the party debacle, I heard the recent drama unfolding at my old house through Lisa, who still kept in touch with the neighbors. It emerged that Kayla had confronted our parents about using their savings for her education. She presumed they had money set aside since they had discussed her college plans for years. That's when they had to admit the truth. They spent the money on their new luxury SUV 6 months ago. Their reasoning was that they were counting on me to cover Kayla's college expenses, so they figured they could use their savings for themselves. The aftermath was predictable from someone who had grown up believing the world revolved around her. According to the neighbors, Kayla's reaction was audible from 3 houses down. Initially, there were demands for them to take out loans to cover her tuition. When they confessed their credit wasn't sufficient, she demanded they sell the car. Sarah, of course, refused, claiming she required the luxury vehicle for her real estate work. Now Kayla is staging what she calls a protest, refusing to get a job or move out until they figure out how to pay for her college. She spends her days holed up in her room, emerging solely to ignite another argument about how they've ruined her future. The neighbors report the fighting seems endless, with Kayla mentioning the car at every opportunity and her parents becoming increasingly desperate to rationalize their decision. The irony isn't lost on me. After years of Sarah and Dad constantly seeking emergency funds and household repairs from me, it appears they had been saving up for a luxury purchase all along. Now, Sarah is apparently whining to anyone who will listen about Kayla's lack of gratitude, seemingly blind to the parallel with how they treated me all these years. Those who comprehend the situation better than I do predict another month before my parents give in and sell the car. Kayla has learned manipulation from the best, having observed her mother wear me down for years with guilt trips and emotional manipulation. Now she's simply applying those same tactics to her parents. I have no doubt she'll eventually prevail. The car will be sold, she'll get her tuition money, and the cycle of manipulation will persist. She is indeed her mother's daughter. Why work for something when you can coerce others into providing it for you? But it's no longer my concern. Let them deal with the monster they created. My own life has found a tranquil rhythm without them in it. My savings account grows steadily now that it isn't being depleted by their relentless demands. I've started taking those art classes I always wanted to try, and I'm planning my first real vacation in years. No more setting aside my own dreams to finance theirs.